Hey Life community, and welcome to Facebook Live. We're so happy that you're joining us tonight. Instead of our usual live devotional and Q&A, we're doing something a little bit different tonight with a pre-recorded video that I think will really bless you. Feel free to still chat, ask questions, and engage in our Facebook Live tonight. Hope you enjoy.
This week we want to talk to you about the bucket list. And I'm not sure how many of you have seen the movie The Bucket List with Morgan Freeman and Jack Nicholson. And in this movie, Jack Nicholson is a very wealthy philanthropist who works with hospitals, and Morgan Freeman was an auto mechanic and a family man who had made a lot of sacrifices for his family and for his marriage. And he really prioritized a lot of things that were important in life, but he also missed out on some dreams. And he took the advice of a professor, and when he was diagnosed with terminal cancer, he began to write down some things that before he kicked the bucket, he would like to accomplish. And Jack Nicholson, who was the founder of the hospital, was also in the same hospital room with him. And Morgan Freeman, a little disappointed, crumpled up his list and threw it on the ground, or missed the trash and it was on the ground. And the next morning, Jack Nicholson pulled the piece of paper out and he began to read off of this list some of these things that Morgan Freeman had decided were important, things he'd like to do before he passed on. And, you know, and when he looked at it, Jack Nicholson began to kind of mock him and kind of chuckle at it, that these things were silly. And you know, Morgan Freeman really said, like, these things are important to me. Have you ever witnessed something truly majestic like the Himalaya mountains? And you know, Jack Nicholson kind of caught on and said, you know, this is good. And he began to add some things on there. And they talked about skydiving. They talked about climbing mountains, doing certain temporal adventures in this life. But you know, while this has great merit, this has kind of become something in our culture that people talk about. What's on your bucket list? What is it that you want to do before you leave this planet? For some people, it might be to go parachuting, skydiving, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane, which I don't think has much common sense. But then again, common sense just isn't that common. But you know, the reality is there's things that people want to do. Perhaps it's run a marathon or do a triathlon. I have come to enjoy working at Ironman triathlons, full distance. Why? Some people say, why would you want to do that? Because we can. I want to do it while I still can. But you know, while those things are fun and they're exciting and it's noble to be able to do those things and accomplish some wonderful things. For some of you, maybe traveling, out west, seeing the Grand Canyon. Or I think it's something that is in men's hearts sometimes much more than the ladies, is I want to drive across, I want to get an RV and I want to drive across the United States, retire and go on a road trip. For some reason, this seems much more appealing to men most often than women. But you know, there's more important things than those temporal things that sometimes we put on our bucket list. And I want to just think of a few of those things. You know, in Mark chapter 8 and verse 36 in the Word of God, it says, what will a man give in exchange for a soul? Or what would it profit a man if he was to gain the whole world, to accomplish everything he wanted to accomplish in this life, but he lost his own soul? In other words, one soul, one human being's life and their eternal destiny is more important than all the things that we could accomplish in this life. I think this really has some merit. But when I think about making life count, I think there are more important things than the things that we will accomplish on this earth. If I really find my sweet spot and I invest my time to make things eternal not just temporal, especially in regards to people and relationships that I build? What could be more important than leading another person to Jesus Christ, to share something good about Jesus Christ with other people? And could you imagine if someone was inspired to invite Jesus Christ into their life? Somebody who was far from the Lord, somebody who had not, ever made that personal decision to invite Jesus Christ into their life. And if you took the time and you began sharing good things about God with them, and over the course of time, they opened their heart and they believed in Jesus Christ. And think about it. If they believed in Jesus, and then their name was written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and they spent forever and ever and ever with the Lord. Now, I think that's something noble to add to your bucket list. Before I leave this planet, I'd like to lead somebody to Jesus Christ. Second thing I was thinking is, unfortunately in life, conflicts happen in relationships. And if relationships are that important, I think it's important to learn to forgive people. Far too often we hold grudges against people, and maybe we're not mean or, terribly ugly toward people, but we haven't let go of those things that they did to hurt us. But before we leave this planet, maybe we make a distinctive choice that I'm going to forgive. I'm going to let what they did to me, that which hurt me, I'm going to let it go. And I'm going to just truly forgive them. And I'm going to release them from what they did to hurt me. You see, that's something eternal. Not only will it release them, but it will release yourself. The third thing, and I think this is also really important, is we live in a world today that has many challenges and many difficulties. There are many lonely people, many hurting people, many great causes that we could be involved in. And I'd like to challenge you to think about, if I understand my sweet spot, if I really understand my divine design, and I look out in the world and I see the things that are really difficult and challenging for people, and I begin to pray and ask the Lord, what is it that you have for me to do? What could I do with my divine design? If I'm functioning in my sweet spot, if I'm prioritizing the things that are most important, what could I do to change this world? Everything you do changes everything else around you. If one person makes a difference, it can be contagious. It can inspire other people. You can make a difference in a family. You can make a difference in a community. You can make a difference in a church. Just one person doing the right things and influencing other people to do the right things can make a tremendous impact. So think about it. Three things today that are greater than any accomplishment, greater than climbing any mountain. And by the way, I've climbed a few mountains, and I enjoy climbing mountains. There's something more important than climbing mountains or driving a race car or driving a motorcycle or traveling across the world to, another country, or seeing a great sight, a majestic sight. It's leading someone to the Lord. It's forgiving somebody. It's restoring a relationship that has been broken or lost. Maybe somebody that's been written off, that people have given up on. If you restore that person back to fellowship with Christ, that's something eternal. Maybe there's somebody, or maybe it's an organization that you could help, somebody that you could come alongside of, and with your gifts and your talents and your abilities and your resources, you could lend a helping hand, and you personally could make a difference in somebody else's life. You know what? That's something that should be on our bucket list. Would you take the time and really pray and consider what's most important in life? and what should be on your bucket list. And you know, when you do it, you can say, as they do in Australia, mark it off. I accomplished that. That was something worth doing. I did it. I accomplished it. And by the grace of God, I can mark it off today.